Okay, everybody, we're going to get started here. If I could just direct your attention towards this way, please. Hello, everyone. Happy Pride. My name is Chase Winneke, and I will be your host for the next half an hour. Now, before we get started and I invite the first speaker up, I want to acknowledge that we are holding this event on Treaty 1 territory, which is the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Oji-Cree, Dakota, and Dene, and the homeland of the Métis Nation. Now, others are joining us virtually from different lands and territories. Let us pay respect to the Indigenous peoples of Canada. And this is important as we move forward with reconciliation. Now, our first speaker could no longer join us due to a personal matter, but his name is Albert McLeod, Dr. Albert McLeod. He is a Two-Spirit elder and a human rights activist, and he offers Indigenous culture and consulting services. And for more information on that, you can visit twospiritconsultants.ca, and that is two, the number, rather than the spelling, so twospiritconsultants.ca. Now, our next speaker is Honorable Marcy Ian, Minister for Women and Gender Equality and Youth.
Hello, friends, and happy Pride. Pride is such a special time, made even more special because after 2 long years of virtual festivities, many of us are celebrating in person this year, which is amazing. In communities across the country, LGBTQ2 people and their allies are marching in the streets, attending festivals, and coming together to reflect on a long journey toward inclusion, equality, and acceptance. We acknowledge harms that have hurt far the trailblazers who showed absolutely incredible courage by living their truth and advocating for LGBTQ rights and protections at a time when it could and often did cost them everything. We also celebrate unity. There's a breakable spirit of LGBTQ people who have picked up the torch and who continue to fight for a more equal and inclusive Canada. We have come a long way together, and we are committed to continue supporting organizations and community leaders who are working on the front lines to provide life-saving programs and educational services for LGBT communities. As we look at optimism for our future, we must remain vigilant and continue speaking out against the inequalities and intersecting forms of discrimination that have scarred LGBTQ2 communities. Guys, please continue to move forward with empathy, acceptance, and friendship. I wish you a safe and happy Pride season.
Alrighty, and our next speaker will be John Orlico, the Deputy Mayor of the City of Waterton.
Well, thank you everybody for having me here today. First of all, I'll do my formal parts. On behalf of the Mayor of Winnipeg, Brian Bowman, who was about 4 months and climbing down his perch to take on another life outside of all six. Through the year today. I'm John Orlico. I'm the Deputy Mayor of Winnipeg. It's a fine city. It's a wonderful city. And we do things a little sometimes differently here. We're a little more, let's say, personable because we all know each other in some form or the other. So today I had an interesting day. What I'm going to say tonight. I'm doing a lot of these speeches now. I'm happy everybody's out of COVID, and we're all excited to be back joined together and join each other's company again. So I do a number of events, probably about 3 or 4 a day now. So I'm looking forward to August when I may get a little bit more of a break. But I was talking to my daughter today, And we're just talking about, the events I do. And one of the ones I thought was really interesting today was this event. What am I going to say here today? What is my lived experience? I don't know. Being Winnipegger my whole life, I've seen the transition from the old bathhouses and the police raids into the demonization of the community, into a much more tolerant community. To me, it was a natural thing. It just sort of happened. It was horrible at the beginning. And then the community got together and we worked together. And it's actually, unfortunately, I say unfortunately, become a little bit more normalized because I am worried about the slippage back. We have to remember what's happened now and what's happening. So we have to stay forward. So when I talked to my daughter, I have a photo, maybe I can still. And it was, here it is, yeah. So today, it was about 1987, the Human Rights Code. Now this is a defining moment for my generation. When actually the premier of this beautiful province of ours came out and said, I cannot support that if you include sexual orientation. And he refused to. Unheard of today. When I told my daughter and I read the answer to her, which is the phrase I want to say it, I can't believe some of the words and I don't even know how to reproduce those words that they said because it's just so alien to me today. My daughter was horrified. She said, how can someone say that about any other human being? And I said, because that's what they said in those days. But now, we got to be happy, again, with the love of pride, and why I'm so happy that you are history together for pride. You see the outcome, that we have moved forward. We have recognized that sexual orientation has no bearing on the human whatsoever. Again, it's not over yet. So pride needs to remind people, not only myself, and this is why this place is especially important for what you're doing here today, because it will remind people through education, through displays, through remembrance, that this was only in 1987. We can't give up. You've got to keep marching forward. You've got to go in solidarity with everybody. The parades are nice, but it's the work that you're doing here every day. So to have an historical remembrance, and we're not even done in Manitoba. We still have many other little towns, and throughout Manitoba, we still got to spread the pride of pride, in my opinion. But again, we're moving forward. But this group here is remembering the past, solidifying the past, and letting people learn through education. So again, I've been at 3 other events today. This is by far my smallest, but my most prideful. So thank you very much.
Thank you, John. Our next speaker is James Bedford, President of the Manitoba Teachers Society.
Thank you, and happy Pride, everyone. It's a distinct pleasure to be here today, bringing greetings on behalf of 16,600 public school educators who work across this great province of ours. The Manitoba Teachers Society is proud to have played a role in financially supporting the Canadian Pride Historical Society. It may be that there are some who think that Pride isn't old enough to have history yet, but whether it's a day, a month, a year, a decade, or a century or more, we all have history. Understanding and sharing that history is so essential to supporting the work that we're all doing to create classrooms, to create schools, to create communities, and create a society that is more inclusive, more understanding, and safer for everyone. These past 2 years have demonstrated the need for pride more than I think any of us would like to admit. There is a desperate need for empathy, for understanding, to stand up to intolerance and, quite frankly, the messages of hate that we've seen recently. They have been much too common throughout this pandemic. Manitoba's public school educators are continuing to work hard through education, through advocacy, to ensure that our schools are safe places for all. We continue to lobby for updates to curriculum, to ensure inclusive language, to educate, to reduce stereotypes, to reduce intolerance and violence within our schools and within our communities. We just released an inclusive language guide to support our members and to support all those who work in our public schools. The work of the Canadian Pride Historical Society is going to further support the work of our members in meeting their needs for more resource materials geared directly to the classroom to support LGBTQT+. Without the knowledge that this material is going to give us, we cannot appreciate where we've come from and just how far we have in fact come. Without that knowledge of history, we risk returning to where we've been, rather than clearly charting a path to where we need to be, to where, quite frankly, we must be on behalf of our students. My thanks to all of you who are attending here today and watching online, and especially to Jonathan for the important work that he's done and for what we are celebrating here today. It's fitting that we celebrate this work along with our first in-person Pride Parade in Winnipeg in over 3 years. So my thanks to you, Jonathan. We'll see you all on Sunday. And again, happy Pride, everyone.
Thank you, James. Our next speaker is Sharon Riley, historian and member of the Advisory Committee. That's the word there. Welcome, Sharon.
Thank you, and good afternoon. I've been asked to speak today about the founding of the Canadian Pride History Society and its work to document the history of the Canadian Pride movement. In March 2013, more than a year before the official opening of the Canadian Museum for Human Rights, Jonathan and Barbie Rudiak met with museum staff to plan a reception for delegates to the 2014 gathering of Pride Canada in Winnipeg. For some time before this, museum staff had been consulting with members of the LGBT TSQ community, along with many other groups, to plan the stories to be told in the museum's inaugural exhibits. I was the acting director of research and curation at the time, having spent most of my career as curator of social history at the Manitoba Museum. There, I worked at various exhibits focused on social justice and human rights issues. At the meeting to plan the 2014 reception, Jonathan spoke about his concern that little had been written about the history of Pride in Winnipeg, or about the almost 45-year history of the Pride movement in Canada. Like the histories of many marginalized groups, the early days of the Pride movement were fragmented and existed largely within the stories and memories of individuals. Without a complete and centralized record of this history, crucial elements of Pride culture and its evolution were at risk of being lost forever. Jonathan and I met to discuss how he and other members of Pride might address this problem. We talked about the museum's oral history program and its strategy of documenting human rights struggles by interviewing those who participated in or witnessed these events. Personal testimony concerning the historical record has not always been accepted as legitimate by professional historians. Instead, most academics have relied on more traditional sources of information, like newspapers, government records, and other documents. More recently, however, oral history has been recognized as a valuable research tool because it makes it possible to document the experiences of those who have been marginalized or excluded entirely from the historical record. Used in conjunction with traditional research methods, oral history has the power to make our understanding of the past more meaningful and more inclusive. Fundamental values of oral history research include those of shared authority and informed consent. Participants decide what stories they wish to include in their interviews and are not obliged to answer all questions. Measures are taken to ensure that the interview process does not traumatize individuals who may be recounting painful experiences. This approach to documenting their history was welcomed by Pride organizers, and a grassroots oral history research project was envisioned that would be developed by members of the community for themselves and for the public. The goal was set to conduct interviews with a wide range of Pride leaders and grassroots members from across the country, documenting their shared and individual experiences. These interviews and other source materials would be used to write the history of Pride across Canada and to develop educational materials for use by schools and other groups. Those of you who attended the Winnipeg Pride Conference in March 2014 may remember a presentation that we made that outlined these ambitious early plans. Since that time, a great deal of work has been carried out by Jonathan and by a dedicated group of Pride volunteers, creating a framework within which to accomplish these goals. When Jonathan asked me to continue work on this project as a member of the newly formed Pride History Society Board of Directors, I ended up on the advisory committee. After I retired from the CMHR, I was happy to accept his invitation. Today, the Society has a broad base of support across the country, with members who are involved in fundraising, communication, design, and creating an engaging and public social media presence for the organization. They are busy researching, writing, and archiving their history, Pride history. Today, celebrate about this work with the launch of the Manitoba component of Pride research and educational materials. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. The next speaker is Haran Vijay Anathan, Director, Equity and Strategic Initiatives for the Canadian Museum of Human Rights.
So good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming here, and Jonathan, thank you so much for bringing this event to the Canadian Museum for Human Rights. I can't stand up here and pretend like we had a great relationship. As the Director of Equity and Strategic Initiatives, and now the Director of Equity and Growth, we do have an unfortunate history with the LGBTQ community right here in Winnipeg and across the country, and we're working towards rectifying that. It's going to take some time to build trust. It's going to take some time to build relationships. I'm glad we're starting today, and we need to acknowledge our history. And for us to acknowledge our history, we also need to work with communities who have a history that have been erased through colonization, through different laws that were put into place. And so it's a great place to have these kinds of stories shared so that we understand from the human perspective of how it impacted individuals and communities and societies as a whole. And through our storytelling here at the museum and the work that you're doing through the Pride Historical Society, we're really, really excited to be working with you and looking at a long-term partnership and developing that relationship as we move forward to ensure that we get those stories right, to ensure that we actually tell the stories accurately to your point around people's histories and experiences, and not necessarily always the academic lens, because sometimes that's lost. And so we spoke about it earlier today, where we have to look at who's telling those stories and who has written those histories that we're supposed to learn from and acknowledge as the truth. So we're looking forward to that challenge. We're looking forward to these relationships, and we're so grateful that we have another resource that we could work with and partner with. And happy Pride, welcome to the museum, and we look forward to continuing our relationships. Thank you.
speaker of the night, we have Jonathan Nimchek, CEO and Chair of the Canadian Pride Historical Society.
Thank you, Chase, and happy Pride, everyone. It's been a while since I've spoken in front of you folks during Pride Week. I hope you don't mind, I'm back. I want to thank, honestly, half my speech is just thank yous, because there's so many folks that I have to thank for the last 2 years that we've been working on this project. So first off, I want to thank all the speakers who came out today and spoke. Each of you represents a critical part to the success of this organization, as well as my past as well in terms of my success. I want to thank Chase coming out here and emceeing and just learning about the organization about a week ago. So he took on a big role and had a lot of hard names to pronounce, and I appreciate that. Obviously, I need to thank my volunteers. We have over 40 volunteers across Canada that just do amazing work. And you're going to see it. It's available on our website right now. You're going to see that research. You're going to see the education resources. And this was all put together by volunteers. We have no paid staff. And it's just amazing. And it really inspires me about volunteerism in Canada that, you know, to this day, we just got an application yesterday for a research coordinator. Like, it's just insane how many folks have really, you know, just have that our mission and our vision has just appealed to so many folks across Canada, and they want to get involved. They want to help us, whether that's through research, through fundraising, communication, and it's just amazing. You know, when Jordan and Dallas and I started this 2 years ago, we honestly thought we might be the only three. You know, we had no idea if this was going to work, if there was going to be any interest, and I'm really glad that we were wrong. You know, I obviously have to thank my board of directors, my advisory committee. You know, we have both Sharon and Kevin from the advisory committee. We also have Kat and Jordan from the board of directors with us today. As anyone knows, in a nonprofit environment, having a solid board is absolutely critical for the success of your organization, and we do. We have super amazing, dedicated board members that are willing to pull out all the stops and make sure that we are successful. And my advisory committee, I mean, they from every facet of the organization in terms of, you know, research and education and pride and archives. And they have guided me and my board to the success and allowed us to really achieve our potential. You know, we don't have a lot of that expertise around the board table, and having, again, a really, really good advisory committee, again, makes a huge difference. And so, Kevin and Sharon, thank you so much for coming out here today. And again, thank you for all of the work that you and all the advice that you've provided me and my board. You know, we try our best to take as much as we can and run with what you give us, but you folks have just done amazing work for us. On the education side, I do want to thank Nikki Gertz. She's joining us virtually today. Nikki Gertz is a teacher here in Manitoba. Nikki has helped us develop our education material. She helped guide Kat and I on the beginning stages in terms of making sure that our format made sense for teachers, and just really helping us design the website for teachers, making sure that all of those resources are clear and understandable for teachers so that they can access the information very quickly. I want to obviously thank the Manitoba Teacher Society, not only for their funding, but their Social and Equity Committee has been reviewing all of our stuff and has just been amazing in terms of reviewing and providing us with that feedback to ensure that our education materials for Manitoban teachers, again, make sense, that can be used in the classroom. You know, we're not in the curriculum, and so these lesson plans had to be designed in such a way in which they can really just be introduced as sort of single unit type lessons, very quick, can be done in a single day in most cases, and you know, it's greatly appreciated. You know, I want to thank the other folks that also advised on our education. So Albert McLeod, Shandy Strong, and Dallas Barnes. They helped us with our first Trans and Dyke March lesson plans, as well as the coining of the Two-Spirit term in Canada. Again, their feedback was greatly appreciated, and that review was welcomed. I want to thank our funders. So obviously the Manitoba Teacher Society, the Alberta Teachers Association, Calgary Pride, and the Manitoba Federation, Labor Federation. Without them and without, and again, nonprofit, we need money. And so without that, we wouldn't be able to operate. We operate at a very lean level, I will say. I think we spend about an average of $1,000 a year, but it's still money. We need money to run our web service. We need money to run our Teams meetings. We need money to put this on, and so without funders, none of this can happen. And so we greatly appreciate that support that we've received. They didn't get anything in return. I don't have a big festival that I can put their logo all over. I have a small website. So they did it without knowing. They did it knowing that they're not going to get, this return on investment. They did it because they believed in what we're doing and they wanted to support it. And that is just amazing. Obviously, I have to thank Haran and the Human Rights Museum. Haran has just been amazing for putting this together. I honestly didn't think, Friday before a big weekend, we're going to get this space. It was sort of a hope and a prayer, and it worked out. And we've been corresponding for the last few months to put this together. And so thank you so much. Again, this has been provided to us at no cost, which is great. By cost, I meant like the printing. That's what we were paying for, like the cards and the stickers and the shirts. I don't want to think that the CMHR is sending us a bill after this. At least I hope not. And so, yeah. So, and again, and just thank you for all the people that we interviewed. All, Gloria, we had a great time that evening. Lots of laughs shared as you shared your personal stories with me. And we're going to continue that. So, what are we doing today? Like, what is today? So, I mean, obviously, we don't have anything physically to show you, other than again our nice cards and our stickers. They are very nice, though, I will say. Today is really the first step in a journey. We're not done, not even in Manitoba. There's still more history to uncover. There's still more stories to hear. But we've gotten to a point now after 2 years that we feel pretty confident in showing you sort of our first kind of draft of what we've done. So when you go to our website, you're going to see 2 new sort of top links. You're going to see something that says our research. And so in there, you're going to be able to access what's called the Pride Information Management System, PIMS, which is our research database. We currently have 450 unique historical events that we have researched in Manitoba that's available in the database. We've also begun to do research into Alberta. We're also in the process of developing a Wikipedia. We haven't quite gotten it up and running. If anyone knows how hard it is to create 2 websites, one in English, one in French, you will understand the challenges that we went through and just trying to get that up and running, let alone a Wikipedia server. So that is coming. That will come this summer. However, we have the Winnipeg wiki page. It's just in PDF, and it's over 60 pages worth of information that we've documented and we've put together. And Brandon Flin, you're coming soon, as per our discussion. So we will get all the folks, all the other prides in Manitoba up there as well. So that's on our research side. On our education side, you're going to find 11 lesson plans from K to 12 that go over things like local history in terms of giving teachers ideas of how to engage their classroom to learn more about their local pride history. And these lesson plans have been designed that anyone in any jurisdiction, any city, town can use them to learn about pride in their city or in their region in some cases if they don't have a local pride. You're also going to find topics in terms of national pride topics. These are events that occurred in Canada that really shaped pride in Canada. So we're talking about, the events that led up to the 1969 decriminalization of homosexuality in Canada, the 1971 We Demand rally, the 1973 Pride Week. I'm not going to list them all because that gives it away. But again, like all of those events, and again, those lesson plans have been designed to, show videos, show articles, and really engage students and again, understanding these important events that are not in history books. This isn't being taught in the classroom, which is obviously very unfortunate because it's such a critical component of Canadian history. And you're also going to find lessons of, in terms of just basic stuff, like what is pride? What does pride mean? What's the rainbow flag? We have a little coloring activity that we have for kids to color in the flag and learn about what do each of the colors represent. And we also have over 16 pages, which has been put into the website, of education resources. So these are just, books, videos, field trip activity suggestions, articles, anything we could find. And it's not specific to Canadian history. We didn't want to create an environment where a teacher is looking, say, for how do I teach kids about gender identity, and they come to our site because they just think of us, and then they don't find it, and then they have to get turned away. So we put everything in there, and so it's not just history-specific stuff. It's really everything we could find. And again, we're open to additional resources. We have things there also specific for like trans, two-spirit as well. And so that's all on our website right now. You can go there, the QR codes right there are, cphs.ca, quite easy. And we encourage you to visit. We encourage you to give us feedback. Let us know what you think. Let us know if does it make sense? Is it easy to navigate? Is the information correct? That's a key one for Historical Society. Are we missing anything? And also, spread the word. Let folks know that we want your history. Get in contact with us. Let us know. We'll set up an interview. We're not just interested in the macro, the big stuff. Like, we want to also get down to personal stories. That's just as critical. We're not at the capacity right now to do, we will be undertaking an oral history project once the funding becomes available and TINFEDs. And once we do that, we will embark on that. But until then, we're happy to set up a Teams meeting just to chat with you. And again, we can always touch base with you once we get the funding to do a more, a more professional reporting. But again, this is just journey step one. We have like 12 jurisdictions to go. So, and I tell you right now, we can't do one a year because then this is never get done. So we need more volunteers. This is my plug. We need more researchers. We need more folks to help us get the job done. We have over 15 researchers, which is great, and they're awesome. We can use more. So again, you can reach out to us at hr@cphs.ca if you want to volunteer. We have tons of different positions that you can do. Any help helps. Also, if you want to know what's going on, newsletter. Sign up to our newsletter. Follow us on our social media. Allison does an amazing job with her team on our social media channels. So we're on Facebook, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on LinkedIn. Not TikTok yet, we'll see. So follow us and stay engaged. And and again, I just want to thank everyone so much for joining here in person and virtually. Your support means the world to me and my organization, and we look forward to this journey together. Thank you.
So as Jonathan said earlier, I didn't know about this organization until about a week ago, but I think it's brilliant, and I look forward to learning everything that there is on the website and everything that's to come. Congratulations to everyone involved, and that brings us to a close today. So thank you so much, and happy Pride. Have a great weekend.